in the Edison Town Hall Municipal Complex, thank you, and just signed a overwhelmingly bipartisan supported bill to raise penalties significantly on home invasions and burglaries. We've made a lot of progress in our steps toward making people feel as safe and secure as possible, but we clearly did not have it right, and this is an American challenge. This is not just a New Jersey issue. It certainly is a New Jersey issue, but we did not have the penalties right. That's changed. It's changed actually the second I signed the bill a few moments ago. So if anybody out there is thinking about burglarizing a home, stealing a car, doing a home invasion of one form or another, you better look at the penalties before you take that step, because they are now what I would call nothing short of severe, including if you're a juvenile, and they will have long-lasting impacts. It gives judges an enormous amount of latitude, and if you want, for instance, 20 years from now to get a professional license, you're going to be screwing your chances to get that license. To give you one example, the amount of time you could serve in prison, the amount of the fine that you would have to pay is going up, has gone up already dramatically. So beware, folks out there, beware. And again, at the same time, we're incredibly proud that we've brought fairness to our criminal justice system. Today was about stronger, but the past 7 years have also been about fairness. And no state has taken the steps that we've taken to reform our criminal justice system. And we've rejected completely the notion that you can have reform on the one hand and not be vigilant and fight crime on the other hand. We've done both, and today is another step in that direction.
Governor, the ACLU in a statement said that, quote, this bill will only serve to further fuel mass incarceration and propel young people into the criminal system. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think I just did respond. We've been committed since day one generally, and specifically in our criminal justice system, to both fight crime smartly. And by the way, shootings are down. You heard today they're down yet again dramatically. Violent crimes, carjackings are all down. We're incredibly proud of that. But we have brought an unprecedented amount of fairness and equity to the criminal justice system over now almost 7 years. And one step after another, and doing things that we think have kept hundreds, if not thousands, of folks out of the criminal justice system, such as violence prevention investments, where you've got folks on the streets, in particular in our big cities, that are working with gangs and communities and young people to prevent crimes from ever happening in the first place.
Governor, we accept that two things are allowed to be true at the same time. Yes, this is stuff on enforcement, but what do you say to the critics who will say, for a 15-year-old who will spend the next 20 years behind bars, they've given up most of their young adulthood, that this law steers away from rehabilitation?
Yeah, I don't agree with that premise that it steers away from rehabilitation, number one. Number two, I think I've kind of just answered the question. But the best thing I can do right now for that 15-year-old is I hope they're listening to me. Don't do it. That's the best piece of advice I can give you right now. Just don't do it. Stay out of the home. Stay out of that circle. Find some help. We have programs up and down the state that are run whether by the state government, local communities, nonprofits, violence prevention groups, as I mentioned a minute ago. We've got a lot of resources for you if you're out there and you're thinking about, do I enter into basically a career of violent crime, or do I take a better, brighter path? And I want to say, please God, do the latter.
Governor, off topic, the state now with the drought warning, how much of a concern is this for the state, and what, if anything, can be done or is being done?
Yeah, always a concern. The Department of Environmental Protection put the word out, and rightfully. We've seen this before, even in non-summer months. End of 2022, we saw this. We got through it. I would say the big watchword is, folks, use less water in all aspects of your life. That's the most important thing I could say. It is yet another example. We remember it was 20, 30, 40 years ago, global warming. We now have used for the past 20, 30, 40 years climate change, because it isn't always warming, it isn't always in one direction, it isn't always in the summer. And this is a good example of that. That's a bigger challenge to push back on that, but use less water is the one piece of advice I give.
Governor, another off-topic.
Hold on, I want to go to others before. I'll come back to you.
Real quick,
No need to be on your knees.
I think I do. Any plans to step in, or what can the state do to help out with the education situation in East Orange? And follow up, some critics are saying that this bill decided today doesn't have enough teeth for like this, because if you don't enforce it with juveniles, then they're being used for these ones.
Yeah, so on the second question, it actually does give judges an enormous amount of latitude as it relates to, this is the flip side of your question. If that juvenile gets sucked into a life of violent crime, this gives judges an enormous amount of latitude to treat them as if they are of majority adults. Not happy about East Orange at all. The solution should never be taking kids to a half day, now 2 days in a row. Their Paramount will correct me, their state funding was up modestly, a couple $100,000. We're trying to get to the bottom of this. We've been all over it. Our commissioner himself for the Department of Education is sitting with the East Orange folks either today or Monday. I'm not happy, and we're taking this very, very seriously.
Are you at all concerned?
Well, I just want to go to others. I'll come back to you. I promise you.
Governor,
Charlie, long time.
good to see you in
Nice to see
Middlesex
you.
County.
I'll say good to see you, subject to what your question is.
Well, the mayor and the superintendent of Atlantic City are both facing serious criminal charges. Do you think either or both of them should resign, or are you okay with them staying in while the charges proceed?
Charlie, I'll repeat what I've said already. I think it's a moment when I think the mayor and the superintendent need to ask themselves the tough question whether or not they've, given the circumstances, everyone's innocent till they're proven guilty. So let me just say that up front. But I think they have to, having said that, assess the circumstances as to whether or not they can still effectively prosecute their job. So that's what I've said. That's what I'll continue to say. Others? Anybody else? Sir.
Governor, getting back to East Orange, sir. A lot of the parents wanted to know, ask the superintendent, why did they only get an additional $200,000 in state aid? Can you answer that at all, or why were they? Some were saying they were overlooked.
Yeah, no, they have not been overlooked, but this is a school funding formula. It's not my formula, by the way. It was in place but never allowed to work many years ago. This was year 7 of 7 years of phasing it in. I don't have the East Orange numbers off the top of my head, but I do think your number is right. It's an increase of a couple $100,000. Districts break along, in my time with this formula, about 2/3 get an increase, about 1/3 go down, and there's a X percent that are about flat. In East Orange, I put in the about flat. What goes into that formula, typically two elements of that formula are the ones that usually lead to the result. Capacity, in other words, how many kids versus how many seats. And then secondly, the local community's ability to pay their fair share, if you will. So it's a mistake to just look at the state element of this. You have to look at the total budget in any community, East Orange or anywhere else, and understand that that's the total budget for that district. I don't have the dynamics of East Orange off the top of my head, but that's the reason that any given district goes up, down, or stays flat.
Governor, given the recent tragic accident,
You're thinking, why not me?
A little bit.
given the recent accident at NJ Transit that led to a fatality, curious, do you think that riders can feel safe on NJ Transit, and what's your administration doing to prevent that from happening again in the future?
I don't want to preempt any investigation, which I know is ongoing, including by the NTSB at this point, not just by NJ Transit. So the feds rightfully are involved, as they should be. And God rest the soul of this woman who comes from a family of NJ Transit professionals. Her sister, as I recall, her father, their father before her. I believe she's a single mom with 3 kids, and God rest her soul. And she and her memory and her family are in our prayers. So I don't want to preempt an investigation of the specifics, but as a general matter, New Jersey Transit has never been as safe as it is today. It was not that case when we first got into office. I'm proud of the fact that it's now, as I say, as safe as it's ever been. But this is, as far as I can tell, kind of a flukish, sad, tragic, but flukish situation. You probably can never bat 1,000 on something like this. Tragically, it's just an awful, awful tragedy. But system-wide, I feel highly confident in their safety profile and record relative to any other big mass transit entity. Sir.
Thanks, Governor. Circling back to East Orange, setting aside the school funding formula, given the parents' frustration, their lack of confidence.
By the way, my frustration as well. I joined them in their frustration. I'm not happy.
Are you at all concerned that in the short term, the state may need to step in to not just restore confidence, but set things straight within the district regarding finances?
Yeah, again, without getting into details, you should assume all options are on the table. Our commissioner is meeting, I think, early week, Paramount. He wanted to meet yesterday and today, and they could not, but I think he's going to meet Monday with them. We're going to have to look at it. We cannot have a community as big and as significant as East Orange with kids going to school half a day. That cannot continue. I can guarantee you that. We're going to have all options on the table.
Governor, one last question about the drought. That's my parents today. Sorry, everyone. When you say use less water, what does that look like? What does that mean? Is this don't take 3 showers a day, take 2?
Yeah.
Like what is practically?
I'm not in a 3-shower category, but yeah, everything possible. Bathing, any lawn treatment, any usage. Again, it's a different dynamic in mid to late October than it is in June or July. So you've got the obvious one in the summer is watering your grass is a big use of water, and that's going to be a different dynamic this time of year. But anything, just think through how much you're boiling, how much you're using for your bath or shower or whatever it might be. Everybody good?
Governor, one more word to anybody who's thinking about breaking the new crime bill law. Okay.
Well, don't. I mean, we have just upped the ante here, upped the penalties dramatically. These are now first-degree felonies. Enormous amount of time at stake, potentially in prison. Enormous amount of dollars in fines. Juveniles that a judge has the latitude to treat as an adult. Long-term consequences. Particularly, by the way, if you've got a weapon. If you steal a car, as I mentioned, long-term consequences that a young person has to think through. Okay, do I ever want a professional license in New Jersey? That's going to be put in jeopardy if you pursue any of these crimes.
Governor, if this is seen as a New Jersey issue, not just an Edison issue, which are the other cities in New Jersey where the statistics for home invasions and burglaries are higher than Edison?
So I would not say it's just a New Jersey story. It certainly is beyond Edison. It's a national story. This is a reality in America right now. And it's a good question as to why is it rate home invasions and car thefts right now, thank God, are going down in New Jersey, but they're not zero. And why are home invasions as high as they are around the country? I'm not sure I'm the psychiatrist or psychologist that can explain why that is, but it is the case. And I wouldn't single out other communities. I mentioned, Frank Pallone, my congressman, mentioned that Monmouth County, where I live, met with a group of citizens the other day. It is real there, I can guarantee you. It is certainly real here in Edison. And we're going to do everything we can to press back against this trajectory. I'm certain, I'm not optimistic, I'm certain that this law will help us do that.
What about civil liberties unions which will argue that this could lead to mass incarceration?
Yeah, I've addressed that. It won't. The smartest thing I can tell folks is to don't get into a life of violent crime. We have plenty of resources available for you to help you get to a better path. And we've had now almost 7 years of criminal justice reform that has been overwhelmingly material and significant. No other state in America has injected equity and fairness into its criminal justice system as we have over the past 7 years.
Governor, one more. With the state legislature starting the process to talk about ballot design legislation, especially with the end of the county line, do you have a preference for what the new ballot design should look like?
I'm open-minded. I don't have a great. I was never the critic of the line that others were. The origins of the line made a lot of sense. You and I are too busy to really focus, and so we elect Paramount to go. It's like the DNC or the RNC's Rules Committee. Not every Democrat or not every Republican. It's unwieldy to have a vote in the Rules Committee, so you select 100 people in each party to do that for you. I've never thought this was the awful thing that others have thought. I also think party organization still will be strong no matter what the ballot design looks like, but I'm open-minded. Thank you all.